Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a tag video for you. This tag is an original tag that was created by Jack over at Spread Bookjoy, and I have been neglectful in completing it. I'm so sorry, Jack. I meant to and then forgot and then was reminded about it recently. I feel horrible. I love getting original tags done by people right away, and I was a space cadet and forgot all about it. Yeah, I feel really bad. The tag is the evolution of a reader tag, which is, I think, a really interesting topic. Being on Booktube, I am definitely a reader, and it really made me start to think and try and think about how my reading has changed. I have talked about it a little bit on my channel, but not for a long time, so it seems like a good time to tackle this particular tag. So the tag only has 4 prompts and then to tag some people. The first prompt is what you read. How has your taste in books evolved? So I know I mentioned this way back in my BookTube newbie video, a long time ago now. Feels like a long time ago, that I had a bit of dyslexia when I was growing up, and it really made it difficult for me to read when I was younger. I didn't read a lot of like classic kids books. I wasn't one that was going to sit there and have a bunch of books. I wasn't Matilda from Roald Dahl reading a bunch of very complicated books at a young age. I didn't read much at all up until the point that I actually went to classes. And so to learn how to read with dyslexia, I still have a little bit today, but it's very minor. Like I will switch a word around. I will definitely turn letters around, like a B and a D are very difficult to figure out which way they're going, especially if they're in the same word, like abdomen right next to each other. I'll look at it and go, or a capital N always looks backwards. So that's one thing that really shaped my initial reading. About junior high, I started to read more. I remember going to the library and having this grand idea that I was going to read every book in the library from A to Z, and I was going to start in the A's. Not the best way, and of course I didn't do that. It wasn't sustainable to do that, but it was the idea that I had. But somewhere in there, I had picked up a romancy type of a book. And it was probably a young adult, teenage kind of angsty romancy thing. And that became the genre I wanted to read all the time. I would read so many romance and cheesy Harlequin romance novels from the 80s where everything always works out. They're very formulaic. No one ever gets pregnant unless it's part of the storyline. I just absolute still are my mind candy today. I will read a romance novel when I just want to read something fun. I still love that genre quite a bit, but I don't read anywhere near as much as I used to. And somewhere in my 30s, I was like, I just got to find some other books to read, which is when I came across the 1001 Books You Must Read Before You Die list. It wasn't until then. And I have been reading from that ever since. And it has really shaped and helped me evolve my tastes in reading quite a bit, because there have been books I would have never picked up on there. There's books that I wish I'd never picked up on there. And there's some books that I look at now and kind of read and go, okay, maybe this isn't quite the book for me, or I go into it with a slightly different perspective. I feel like I've read a large number of classics because of that list. I've really dipped into a lot of different areas and a lot of different kinds of books because of that. It really all started when I picked up my first Agatha Christie, which was And Then There Were None. I still have a love of Mistry. I still have a love of her books, though I don't, again, get to read those as much as I want to because I have this massive project. And sometimes I feel like that drives what I'm reading. But my tastes definitely have I've tried to branch into fantasy and sci-fi. It's not, still not my favorite genre. I'm working on those as to see if there's something that I really like. There's a reading group that I belong to now, which I love, that is really sci-fi related, or that's primarily what we've been reading in that group, and it's fantastic. It's exactly what I need, because otherwise I don't know if I'd pick up some of those. So I think my taste in books has definitely changed. I do identify more with a character-driven book. I want a book where I can sink into those characters, and I can have a character I love and a character that I hate. And I'm okay with a bad guy winning, but give me a really good character that I can either relate to or really dislike. That's or sympathize with, empathize with. That's the primary way I think that my reading taste in books has really changed. Number 2, How you read. Has the format of your reading changed much? Well, yes, definitely. I used to, obviously, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. We didn't have digital books. We only had physical books. I'd go to the library and check them out or buy something at the local drugstore for a couple of dollars. I don't remember if that's how much they actually cost, fuzzy memory, but I would read only from physical books. And around, I don't remember when now, but sometime in my late 30s, early 40s, I started getting more and more books from the library because I wanted to use that and not buy as many books. And with that, I was checking out physical books still, and I was resisting doing an e-reader of any kind. Somewhere along there, it switched, and I started reserving. I realized I could reserve ebooks, and it flipped my reading so much because I used to restrict how many ebooks I would buy because of the cost. And then once I learned that I could check out an ebook from the library, it opened this whole new world of books where I was reading so much more. That switch and that ability to pick up an ebook, and especially when I'm traveling, I can have, I don't even know how many ebooks I have on my e-reader or on my iPad when I'm traveling. I have a Kindle app on my iPad, which is how I read, and the library books download to it automatically, and they expire automatically. I don't have to go back to the library to return them. I still use the library for physical books, but more often I am getting ebooks because I can take them anywhere. So that I've dipped a little bit into audiobooks, but I typically only use audiobooks to help me get past either a really difficult section or a really difficult book. It's rare that I will listen entirely to an audiobook. It's usually to help supplement something, or I'm on a long drive down to my parents' house and I need something to keep my brain engaged. I might listen to an audiobook, but my preferred medium is still going to be physical books, specifically floppy paperbacks. That's my preferred. Second is definitely e-reader. Okay, number 3, how much you read. Do you read more or less than previously? When do you read? How has how often you read changed? I kind of have to do almost pre and post Booktube because the next question is Booktube. But I have always been, or not always, but since I've been in my late 30s, avid reader. I will often be reading. It used to go in kind of waves. I would read 20 books in a very short amount of time, and then I wouldn't read another book for 3 months. And it just depended on kind of where I was at. If there was an engaging television show, I would abandon everything else and watch that. So that's one thing. I didn't start tracking how many books I was reading until probably, I don't know, 2015, 2016-ish maybe, and on Goodreads. And I used to set a Goodreads goal, and I was averaging around kind of the same number. And one year I had set a goal and I was missing it. I was like, well, should I read all these short books? I'm like, that's just really silly, that Goodreads goal. I have abandoned doing a Goodreads goal entirely. I don't actually know at any given point how many books I've read so far this year. I just don't know. And I do like that quite a bit more. I don't like tracking how many books I'm reading. I like trying to find those 5-star reads like Middlemarch that I get to read. Those are kind of the things that I'm actively searching out. So it's not as much about the quantity, but I know I read a lot. I am often reading. I read in the mornings almost exclusively. I get up usually around 5. It's early. I don't have young kids at home. I don't have to travel anywhere for work. I get to work from home. So between the hours of 5 and, depends on if I'm going to the gym or not, 5 and 8:30, I have a good 3-hour chunk in the morning to read. That's the only reason why I'm able to read the number of books that I do. Without that morning time, forget it. It's not going to happen. I work all day, finish work, make dinner. By the time all that's done, I might read a few pages, a few chapters, and that's going to be it. My bulk reading, my big reading is always in the morning. So, and then has how often you read changed? A little bit post Booktube, and I'll talk about that as well. But where before I used to be able to go in these waves, now I don't have that luxury, it feels like, because I've always have a big TBR. I'm wanting to participate in all these things like the Booktube Prize and the Past and Futures Readathon and March Mystery Madness and March Middle Grade March and March of the Mammoths and, Victober and Jane Austen July. I mean, the number of events that are in this community is incredible. But because of that, I often don't have those downswings. It's like I just can't quite figure out that time, except once a year when I go camping. like all bets are off. I don't read anything, which is perfect. But yeah, how often I read, I would say have a tendency to read more in like when we're in the car, when we're going somewhere. If we go out like to somewhere and have a coffee, I might have my ebook up and reading it. Prompt number 4 is, how has Booktube changed you as a reader? I would say Booktube has been one of, if not the most impactful things that has changed me as a reader for a wide variety of reasons. One, the number of books that I'm exposed to every single day has grown exponentially from before. I used to have to try and go and research it. I didn't have a lot of time. And now I get to watch all my friends give me recommendations for amazing books that they have tried out, and I get to now read. That is one thing. The second thing is, I think before Booktube, I did not read a lot of nonfiction really at all. It was a genre, it was an area that I stayed away from for the most part, unless it was a book like Wild, which, you know, hiking, of course, I'm going to read that one. Or something along those lines. But a lot of the nonfiction books that I've been able to pick up, like Winter Dance or The Woman They Could Not Silence, have been such amazing reads that I would have not picked up prior to Booktube, because Booktube has also made me go and investigate additional authors, additional genres, additional different types of things to read. I'm not stuck in one genre or two genres. I'm reading a wide variety of different books, newly published books. I would say it is the most impactful thing for my reading. It also has brought attention to me. Am I reading as diversely as I really want? So those are kind of all the things I think Booktube did a great job. Plus the Booktube prize. I mean, that changed my reading. Also, I don't think I ever really paid attention to prizes at all. Maybe the Pulitzer-ish, but I certainly wasn't paying attention to the Booker or the Women's Prize or the number of wonderful prizes that are out there. So I think Booktube brought that to me as well. But reading is such an important part of my life. It's part of who I am. It's what I do for fun. If I want something light, I'll go pick up a romance novel, and I'm right back to when I was a teenager reading these books that were completely inappropriate for me, but loving every minute of them. And that's often also how I can get out of a slump, is to go read something like that. But yeah, it's been quite the journey. I don't, like I said, number of books wise, it's going up and down every year. When I first joined Booktube, my number went so higher than I've ever read or know I've ever read in a single year. And a lot of that was because I was so excited to be part of this community, and I was just reading. And then last year I slowed it down. I slowed it down intentionally. I did not try and read as much. I just said, I'm gonna read what feels naturally in a month, which is usually between 8 and 12 books. If I get over 12, it is a struggle at over 12. 12 is just almost kind of unmaintainable. It depends on how long they are. A number of books, like I can't read 12 Les Mises in a single month. That's just not going to happen. I should look at the number of pages I feel like I could read in a month. I haven't done that. But that's really it. That's the evolution of a reader tag. I know a number of people have done this. Should I do the jar? Let's see. Okay, let's see who comes up. Jack tagged a number of people in hers, so I don't know. We'll see. Editing Sandy here, I did go back and look at all of the people that I drew, and only one of them hadn't done the tag from what I could tell. So I'm not going to go through and redraw or show you that original part of the video, but what the person that I did draw that doesn't appear to have done it is Nikki over at Red Dot Reads. So that will be the one that I am going to tag for this video. So Nikki, I hope you decide to do this one. I'd love to see your version of this particular tag, and I hope you've enjoyed my journey, enjoyed hearing a little bit about my history and my history with books and reading and where I started. And yeah, I'd love to hear your comments down below, or read your comments down below about your evolution of a reader as well. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, thanks, bye!